Trying to avoid all.
What do y'all think? You think everybody?
Oh,
Okay. Okay, when we do the roll call. Yeah. Hey, Shannon, would you bring me a ball? I want to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting on Greenville City Council. You are an amazing group of people. Made your way here in the midst of a tornado, so that means real commitment. We really do appreciate it. Everybody can now understand why we feel so strongly about the need for a city hall where the council chambers on the first floor. Now you know, and you also know the secret that the security section, emergency preparedness section, bomb shelter, AKA in the old days, is in the basement of City Hall. That was a secret. I mean, a top government secret for decades. You were not supposed to know that. Now the secret's out. So you didn't see it. You never seen it before. You know nothing. You know nothing. So thank you all very much. Please rise for invocation by Council Member Lillian Brock Fleming, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we truly thank you for this day. We thank you for your blessings and all of your mercy. We thank you for the rain. And we especially hope that you will have mercy on those who are in severe and deadly weather. Ask for them for safety, and we pray that you will give them a return home so that they'll be able to enjoy their families. More importantly, we thank you for all that you've done for us. We thank you for this month of May, where you've given us so many great, wonderful things with Unity Park, with the community, and more importantly, with our families and with our children. We thank you for all that we've enjoyed and will enjoy in the future. We ask that you will continue to bless us, bless our staff, bless our first responders, bless all of those who are working so difficult and trying to make things better for our city. We pray a special blessing upon our residents and those who are visiting, all of the above, Lord. We thank you for them because we know without you, we have no hope. And we thank you for all that you've done, and these blessings we ask in thy name. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with justice for all.
Clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember John DeWorkin.
Aye.
Councilmember Lillian Fleming. Councilmember Ken Gibson.
Here.
Councilmember Will Brazington.
Here.
Councilmember Russell Stahl.
Here.
Councilmember Dorothy Dow.
Here.
Mayor Knox White.
Here, Councilmember DeWorkin has not been blown away. He is out of town and joining us by phone tonight. Looks like you could hear him okay, right? Could he hear it okay?
I can hear you okay.
Okay, seems to work. You have the minutes of May 9th, 2022, which will stand approved as submitted unless there are any objections. Seeing none. We have a few folks who braved the weather to come tonight to speak on an important topic, and that is much appreciated. So I'll let those folks speak up front. And mind you, we have a 3-minute rule up here, so watch that clock if you would. And I'll start with Miss Charlotte Abrams.
Good evening. I'm a resident of the city of Greenville and a member of the Greenville 2040 Steering Committee. Unity Park is a marvelous achievement for the city of Greenville and its residents. The park is a giant step in addressing one of the 3 priorities identified by the Greenville 2040 Comprehensive Plan, the priority of open space and the environment. I commend the mayor and the city council and previous city councils for this achievement. However, the cost, $11 million with $5.5 million of that paid for by the city, needs more consideration as to whether the proposed Unity Park Tower is in the best interest of the citizens of Greenville. The tower, as confirmed by former council members, was originally envisioned to be built with donated funds. I am aware that some believe a tower at Unity Park will be a big draw for visitors to the city. But Unity Park without the tower has already proven to be hugely successful in drawing visitors. Greenville's iconic Main Street, Falls Bridge, and Swamp Rabbit Trail have all received national attention and already draw visitors from across the country. The theme of Unity Park, that of bringing diverse communities together, is in and of itself a major visitor attraction. There are many options to a tower that are very worthy of consideration. For example, more connections to the Swamp Rabbit Trail, increased trolley service, additional upgrades to Cleveland Park, and a grove of trees and a plaza to honor our first responders. I urge you to engage the public before moving forward with the tower. In interactions with city residents during the preparation of the comprehensive plan, residents made it clear that they do not want growth to occur at the cost of our values, one of which is inclusion. Please place this project on hold until a broader cross-section of our city residents is included in consultations other than this council meeting regarding the decision to build a costly tower. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan McClarty.
Hey, good evening. I'm Susan McClarty, and I live at 204 East Hillcrest Drive and have been a resident of the city since 1992. Recently, my church, Westminster Presbyterian, brought a guest speaker, Dr. Linda Shade, and her sermon title was God's Creation Needs the Church, God's Church Needs Creation. Our time together focused on caring for the environment. Leah noted that in a recent survey, 78% of Americans are concerned about the environment. She noted the quote also as she toured around Greenville outside of the M. Judson bookstore. The most powerful words in the English language are, "Tell me a story." So tonight I'm here to ask that we continue to tell a story of Unity Park, a park that is open. Let us also tell a story of how our scarce public funds were used for the many pressing needs in our city, not of building an artificial tower. In 2019, Eric Connor with the Greenville News at that time reported the cost of the tower will be covered by a $6 million private funding campaign. I am concerned of a pattern from this council that votes and adopts plans, but makes changes to votes. Imagine a story where our veterans and first responders are honored through creating a place we can all call very good. Maybe they are honored by shifting the way we tell the story of the newly planted 750 trees in Unity Park. These trees will grow into towering, beautiful trees that can feel infused with the presence of our veterans and first responders, a cathedral of trees giving back to our environment, just as they gave selflessly back through their tireless work. Those scarce public funds from areas related to tourism could also provide maintenance and upkeep at Unity Park and at our pocket parks and other parks throughout the city that I do enjoy on a regular basis. In July 2020, the Greenville Journal reported that based on aerial flyovers, the U.S. Forest Service, Greenville lost approximately 33.1 million square feet of tree canopy between 2001 and 2011. By 2020, they predicted that loss could grow to 59.6 million square feet and 75% of the city could be covered in asphalt, said Edward Kinney, senior landscape architect for the city. Let us be known for towering, beautiful trees, honoring our veterans and first responders. Let us be known for the story of replacing our tree canopy. Let's call a timeout for the vote tonight for how scarce public funds can be used. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the comment about the trees. I do want to note, as you know, the Unity Park was a lot of it was asphalt. Now it's beautiful green space. Used to be a big landing strip right there, but thanks for those comments. Stacy Mills.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Stacy Mills, and I rise tonight to speak in favor of proceeding with the vote for the park and its tower and all other plans that have been in place. And I draw attention to the work that began in 2009 as I served along with 14 other citizens of Greenville on the Park Design Committee. And we worked painstakingly long in meetings and other discussions with the park staff, Parks and Recreation, and now Parks and Recreation and Tourism staff to design an appropriate representation of the community that was changing fastly in front of us. The stories that have been asked for tonight, I represent from Mountain View Baptist Church, the Newtown community and Southern Side, a story that is rarely talked about in these kinds of settings, and that is the disinvestment that has taken place from that side of town. And so now we have the opportunity to have a wonderful park that brings people together. And if you were there on Thursday, you saw that in its glory. You also saw it over the weekend with many people from many backgrounds sharing in the amenities of the park. To now decide, after the design has been accepted and adopted by this council, to make changes and redirect the desire of the park to look differently is a slap in the face to a community that has been promised many times these types of amenities, and now we decide that we want to take away that opportunity for this moment and this community. And so I want to suggest members of Mountain View Baptist Church who are here with me, who have heard this vision from the pulpit on a regular basis, to embrace the idea of this park unifying our community. I'm going to ask them to stand with me and be recognized. I'm sorry, Mary, I know you were going to also ask others to stand, but I'm going to ask those from Mountain View who have come with us tonight to stand and be recognized in council chambers, so that you will understand that our concern is not so much for the tower, but for the promises that have been made for this community, and then decisions being made about this Black community, that we should accept a pause when it comes to investing money for this side of town, which over time historically has been disinvested. I ask that council will continue and proceed with the vote so that this park will be completed in its entirety as it was presented to the community, so that its glory may also affect our desire to plan and build on the other side of the tracks, which often is neglected. I ask council to move forward with the vote this evening. Thank you.
Ms. Nikki Grumbine.
Hi, I'm Nikki Grumbine. I live at 42 Southland Avenue, 29601. Greetings to Greenville City Council, Mayor, and attending guests. I am speaking today as a private citizen. I oppose the rush to build the 7-story tower proposed for Unity Park. Greenville City Council has lots of time to decide on whether or not to build this tower. While the original intent was to fund the tower with private funds, we are now looking at public money to pay for much of the tower. $5 million in public money is too much to allocate for this tower. This tower is a want. It's not a need. And there are many other pressing needs in our community. We do not need to spend $9 million to honor our first responders. Many of these first responders no doubt live in areas where their neighborhood parks are in disrepair. An April 11, 2022 article in the Greenville News cited Angie Presser, head of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism. She remarked that her department is saddled with inadequate manpower, money, and a crumbling infrastructure. It was startling to read that 38 full-time park employees are responsible for the upkeep of 35 public parks, gardens, and other public spaces. Only 5 full-time staff cover the 105 acres of Cleveland Park, itself a tourism draw. We need to think about the welfare and entertainment of our own citizens in addition to tourism dollars. I propose that we do nothing until the park is settled in and we see the impact on tourism and the strain on our park staff to keep it clean and in good repair. If in 10 years we feel we need a tower, then we have a perfect 10th anniversary monument for the park. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Carl Miller. Like that tie, Carl.
Thank you. I wore it just for you.
I appreciate it. My green. I always try to wear green, you know.
I live at 130 Wilderness Lane near Cleveland Park. The book of Ecclesiastes says that there's a time for everything and every purpose under heaven. When my wife and I moved to Greenville almost 45 years ago, the time was to rebuild Greenville and to rebuild it with bricks and mortar, steel and concrete. We put our shoulders to the wheel along with many other people, some of whom are here in the room today, including the mayor, of course, and members of council. And we were successful. What it took was heart, soul, time, and not an inconsiderable amount of money, including personal money. Now there's a different time. The time is not to build with bricks and mortar. Time is not to build objects. The time is to build lives. And the reason for that is that of all the places in all the counties in all of America, the place that is probably the most difficult to emerge from poverty, certainly one of the most difficult to emerge from poverty, is Greenville City, the city of Greenville, right where we are. And it's especially difficult if one is an African American. The per capita income of African Americans in the city of Greenville is a third that of whites. The household income of African Americans is less than half that of whites. It's worse in the city of Greenville than it is in Greenville County. It's worse in the city of Greenville than it is in the state of South Carolina. And we need to fix that. We need to unshackle boys and girls, mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, grandparents, who face this terrible dilemma. And the money that we're to spend on that tower could be better spent to create and implement ways to lift these people from Greenville out of poverty. And if we do that, when we do that, then truly the city of Greenville will be as a city upon a hill for all the world to see. And as you reflect on that, you might remember the last words of John F. Kennedy in his inaugural address, which is that if God's work is to be done on this earth, truly, we must make it our own. Thank you very much.
Mr. Bo Autry?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Glad to be here tonight. I think that my first bit of understanding I'd like to convey to you is from a business standpoint. And so we opened the Hampton Inn downtown in 2006. And that hotel ran roughly 65% of its business was business and 35 was leisure. Unfortunately, the employment opportunities downtown have not grown as our leisure business has grown. And when we built that hotel, we had an expectation for more business contribution. Well, that business contribution has dwindled significantly. Year to date, this year, 75% of our business is leisure versus the business traveler. Now, when you couple that with the fact that in 2015, there were 860 hotel rooms in downtown Greenville. And once the Kempton gets built, there'll be more than 2,500 hotel rooms. And you haven't had the employment growth, which is our core historically, but fortunately have had incredible leisure growth. That's how we've survived. That's how our peers have survived. That's how retailers along Main Street have been able to grow their businesses as restaurateurs, and that creates employment. So that's a blessing from a leisure standpoint. when you look back, so the importance of this park, to me, from a business standpoint, is crucial. And to my peers, it's crucial. And you've done a great job in building that or supporting that leisure business. And I appreciate that. If you look back at what Greenville's taken bold steps going back to Tommy White and Knox Heller going to Chicago and getting a Hyatt in a city that, I mean, there wasn't a Hyatt outside of a major city in this country. And then the Peace family and their support in 90, and then Unity Park, not Unity Park, Falls Park and the ballpark. Those are all bold, giant steps. None of them were free, but all of them brought leisure travel like we never could have imagined. And we've been awarded every sort of national award possible for a city our size. And it's because we've had visionaries and we've had leaders and we've had great citizens. And where's Stacy? This man right here said it really well.
You get one sentence. What do you say?
He said it well. We Greenville who have succeeded owe this to that community out there. I thank you.
Mary Duckett?
Good evening. My name is Mary Duckett. I live at 201 Pinckney Street. Been there for the last 36 years. Been on Pinckney Street for 57 years. Been in Greenville for over 70 years. That side of town has always been a dumping ground. Now, what makes it so sad is a lot of times people, well, all the time, people bring their junk into our community and dump it. And all of a sudden, when the good master has did what he is doing to Unity Park, bringing a blighted area, it's better than the phoenix coming out of the ashes. Let's call it a metamorphosis for the caterpillar and the butterfly. Do you know what pride we have in that area now that it's decent, it's healthy? It's going to be something that other generations will not have to live through what we did. And now, all of a sudden, they want to change the plan. I hear people say, oh, it's too much money. Too much money to put in an area that you have neglected for 100 and some years. If you put 10 times that much money in there, you would not have paid enough for us. Let me make that explicitly clear. But the good news is, I don't know if people know this. One side was Mayberry, one side was Meadowbrook. During that time when I came along, and a lot of us came along, it was segregated. The tower is going to be sitting right in between the two. There's no other word for it. That is confirmation. I heard him say something about Ecclesiastes. Well, I read the Bible too. And it is a time and a place for everything under the sun. It is a time and a place for this tower to be put there in the center of those two parks that will solidify the word unity. But most of all, it is one that's going to be representing people that stand out every day. Some have already lost their lives. They are still out there on the main line for us. For us. Do you not realize what that means? Now, I only have a few dollars. I noticed that some people talk about the other parks. Cleveland Park's been there forever. Now we got one in our neighborhood. And we want all that was promised from the design that the people did. All those in favor, would you stand up? and hold up your power. That's what we want. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to our agenda items now. Appreciate that. Public hearing on the budget, operating budget. Matt?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this is to open the public comment period for the city's proposed annual operating budget for FY '23. City council has held 3 work sessions, the last of which was earlier today, and the budget public hearing was advertised on May 8th in the Greenville News. And we'll open it for any public comment there are.
We had a long series of budget sessions and workshop just before this, and we're extremely excited about this budget. And Matt, what's that number for the neighborhood improvement bond? 36 million?
Yes, sir. $36 million was the total neighborhood infrastructure.
An
bond.
unprecedented amount of neighborhood improvements at one time, in addition to a regular budget with the $36 million neighborhood improvement bond for sidewalks, roads, parks, and everything else imaginable. But thank you. That concludes the public hearing. Recognition and appointments, boards and commissions. Okay, council.
Excuse me. So I'm speaking, okay, I didn't know if he was virtual or not.
Well, I think
Councilmember DeWorke here? No? Okay.
John DeWorke is still here.
Okay, I will.
I
pinch
am, but I was not part of the,
Okay, thank you.
I'll go ahead.
Okay,
Go ahead.
got you covered, John. Just wanted to thank some outgoing board members from the Greenville Transit Authority. Council would very much like to thank Scott Craig. He will be rolling off due to other commitments and has served since July 13th of 2020. Also on the Springwood Cemetery Board, Thomas Drake will be rolling off. He has served since August 1st of 2016. So thank you both to them for their service.
Very much. And we have some new appointees. Councilman Gibson.
It is my great honor to nominate or recommend the appointment of Sean Rusnick to the Greenville Transit Authority to fill an unexpired term that will end on October 31st, 2023. Had the great pleasure of interviewing Mr. Rusnick. He is an extremely impressive young man, and I think he will do an outstanding job on Greenville Transit Authority.
Is he with us tonight?
Mr. Rusnick,
Oh, there he is. Okay, thank you. Yeah, thanks very much. We appreciate your opportunity to serve. Any other nominations? If not, all in favor of Mr. Rusnick for GTA's appointment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
And I would like to make a motion for an appointment to Springwood Cemetery Advisory Committee for a 2-year term. I recommend Charles West, Charlie Bryan, and Earl Provost for reappointment, and Murphy Armstrong for appointment, each for a 2-year term ending April 30, 2024. I don't think I saw
Anybody here?
out here.
Okay.
Murphy's here.
Murphy's here.
Oh,
Thank
there
you,
he is.
Murphy.
Okay, thank you. There he is. Yeah. Thank you very much. Any other nominations? If not, all in favor of these nominees, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Okay. We have the consent agenda in front of you, council. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember DeWorke,
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming,
Aye.
Councilmember Gibson,
Aye.
Councilmember Brazington, Councilmember Stahl,
Aye.
Councilmember Dow,
Aye.
Mayor White.
Aye. Regular agenda. 14A.
An ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of documents relating to the provision of municipal facilities, consenting to and approving the issuance in one or more series from time to time, not exceeding $55 million.
So moved. Second.
Motion second. Discussion.
I do have a question.
Okay.
And Matt, maybe this is to you. So this is split. This is a lump sum that we're splitting for Halton Road as well as for the NIB, the Neighborhood Infrastructure Bond, Improvement Infrastructure Bond, sorry. $9.5 million to Halton Road, $4 million for the TMC upfit, yes?
Yes, ma'am.
And then, no, 36 million for the Neighborhood Infrastructure Bond, which to the mayor's point is an unprecedented and much welcomed expenditure on the people who already live here. In the sentence of the ordinance, it does say to provide funding to finance the costs of acquiring, constructing, equipping, and installing municipal facilities. So municipal facilities, is that anything that the city owns? Or is it a structure that houses a department?
So municipal facilities as defined by the bond ordinance is anything the city constructs. So it doesn't. include-
Anything the city what?
Constructs.
Constructs.
Does not include just the buildings. It includes the streets, sidewalks, and other elements of the neighborhood infrastructure bond.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember DeWorke,
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming,
Aye.
Councilmember Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Brazington. Councilmember Stahl.
Aye.
Councilmember Dow.
Aye.
Mayor White.
I abstain. New business, 15A.
An ordinance to convey surplus city property located on Green Acre Road to Wheatley Monastery School LLP for the purposes of building and operating a school and/or an educational facility.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, discussion, clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember DeWorke,
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming.
Aye.
Councilmember Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Brazington.
Aye.
Councilmember Stahl.
Aye.
Councilmember Dow.
Aye.
Mayor White.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, before we move on, I
Yes, sir.
just want to say very quickly on this one, Sylvia Blassingale, she is the lady who will be running the Montessori school that will be built on this property. She currently services 17 kids in the area that will be expanded to over 100. I would just like to recognize her, and if you can, Sylvia, please stand up.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, thank you very much. Finally get a good use for that building too. In that
Absolutely.
regard. Yeah, very good, very good. Very impressive what you're going to do over there. 15B,
An ordinance to appropriate funding in the capital projects, hospitality tax, and local accommodation tax funds, and to authorize the use of previously appropriated funds in the Unity Park project for the design and construction of Unity Park Honor Tower and Plaza.
So move.
Second.
motion second. Matt, you want to?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, we don't have a presentation this evening. You all are familiar with the project. I will say the only change between the first iteration of this, when we included it in the earlier budget presentation, and now is the reduction of $1 million from hospitality tax. So the current proposal is to appropriate $4.5 million of new public funds from the local accommodations and hospitality tax, and utilize $1 million of savings from Unity Park Phase 1 construction, and the remainder would be public funding. So that's
Yeah,
The remainder would be private funding.
And the remainder will be private funds after that. And just to clarify, because we always want people to understand this, this kind of monies, accommodations, tax, hospitality, can only be spent for tourism projects.
Yes, sir.
So it cannot be spent for affordable housing. It cannot be spent for roads. It cannot be spent for police. It can only be spent for tourism projects.
Yes, sir.
And that's where the money comes from for this. Thank you.
And I have an amendment. Is now the time, Lee?
We got a motion and a second, so open for discussion.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone the vote on item 15B until alternatives for a better park element can be explored, which can be funded privately and which is more in keeping with the design aesthetic of the park.
Second.
Motion second. Okay, motion second. Discussion. If not, clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember DeWorke,
No.
Councilmember Fleming,
No.
Councilmember Gibson,
No.
Councilmember Brazington, Councilmember Stahl.
Yes.
Councilmember Dow.
Yes.
Mayor White.
No. No. Back to the ordinance comment.
I'd like to offer a motion. I make a motion to amend the ordinance to insert the following clause as the 14th paragraph, whereas notwithstanding any applicable provision of city code or a general budget ordinance, no additional city funding for the tower, plaza, surrounding walkways, and landscaping between the planned baseball field and Meadowbrook Green or a related project will be provided without city council approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. Mayor, do we have time for discussion real quick?
Sure.
The, I voiced this concern earlier. The only thing that I have concern with is the related, or related projects. Is that defined anywhere?
Yeah, so I amended the, not I amended the amendment, but I defined it as plaza surrounding walkways and landscape between the planned baseball field and Meadowbrook Green.
And then thank you for that. And does it still have the or related projects? I mean, or, yeah.
That's my mistake, council member. I did say or related projects, so I'd strike that from my statement. So funding for the tower, plaza, surrounding walkways, landscaping between the planned baseball field and Meadowbrook Green without council approval.
Question?
Okay, thank you. Question?
How will that affect the need for maintenance or any other thing that relates to those particular areas?
Well, this amendment is just offered for the tower itself, for the installation.
Capital versus upkeep, is that your
Yeah,
question?
yeah, but it seems to, the way it's worded, it seems to apply to not just the tower itself, but the related projects part basically applies to the entire area. So my concern is that if that restriction were in place, would that prohibit staff from doing other work regarding that area absent from the construction of a tower?
But this is just for the appropriation of the funding for the tower. The maintenance down the road is part of the operating budget. So I don't see this as
Well, I
affecting.
don't know, the manager may have to. But if something were damaged,
I can't hear the manager, so sorry.
had a tornado come through or something.
Come in and replace.
For example.
I mean, because it seems pretty broad.
But maybe I
Had
could
an
explain the
opportunity
purpose of the
to dive
motion.
into that particular question.
The purpose of the motion, because as it stands right now in 15B, the way that ordinance is written, that if two things happen, the price tag, which is an estimate and only that, if that number grows, or if the private funding is not met, or if the surplus from Unity Park is not is not 1 million, then there are no guardrails on this ordinance in place to prevent that investment of public dollars from climbing. And they could climb from any fund, not just tourism. So my objective in offering the amendment is, one, the council be consulted if any of those things happen for approval. Simple as that.
My understanding for the
They're only appropriate.
the motion that is before council prior to any amendment states that work will not, or appropriations will not begin until the private funding, the $5.5 million private funding is obtained anyway. Is that right?
Yeah, so there is a section in the ordinance as proposed before amendment that states the project is contingent on private fundraising, and while final design and permitting will move forward, construction will not be approved until private funds are committed.
And that's the 5.5 million?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's already a guardrail in place that unless the $5.5 million is obtained, there is no authorization to start construction of the tower.
So that is how the ordinance is written. Yes, sir.
It's not obtained. It's pledged, to be clear. It's not money in the bank.
But I think the resolution says obtained, right?
It says committed.
Committed. Okay.
Committed.
It's my feeling that this council has not been briefed on this tower, on the design, or briefed on the results from the schematic drawings, or briefed on really anything other than 11 million is the appropriation being asked. All I'm asking for is that if that number grows, or if the supplements as advertised aren't met, that funding isn't stripped from other areas of the budget, because that is at the purview of the city manager, according to the city attorney. My understanding is it's at the city manager's purview, unless something like this is in there, to allocate funds from other sources to cover the cost of the tower. I'm just asking for council to be able to approve that.
Councilman Fleming?
Oh, no, go ahead. She was
Oh,
finished.
I'm sorry.
Are you
Thought
finished?
you had your hand raised.
I mean, if I'm wrong, I'll let the city attorney weigh in, but that's my understanding.
Yeah, I would say this period of discussion, I mean, from my standpoint, I think I could potentially get behind what this amendment's trying to do, but perhaps more easily if at the time of second reading, it were raised and the type of clarity that Councilmember Gibson was seeking is spelled out so that there was no uncertainty as to what it applied to and the things on the fly we're talking about now. I will simply say, as I think about this motion, it just occurs to me that whether it's through the budget or this special ordinance that contemplates line item funding for a tower, when we authorize something, we mean it. It's never a general suggestion. It's always we mean it. And so from a philosophical standpoint, tower aside, I just openly worry about if and when certain areas we say you've got to come back if there's ever any overage. I mean, then how would this council respond as to why we wouldn't do that with every other allocation or commitment of precious public funds? So, for discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I support what you're trying to get. My problem is the way that it is worded. And quite frankly, I really think it's sort of unnecessary because I can't imagine that given how many people are here on this, that the city manager would authorize in excess of what we've said we were going to spend on this tower without coming back before council and getting our approval.
I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I think he
we're
values
saying,
his job.
so we're, well.
Although it went from 5 to 11 with us.
Went to 5 from 11, and
Well, we're
my
authorizing
point
it
is,
now.
we would not know it, that money would be committed without us really knowing.
We will provide regular updates on this tower project, including monthly budget updates. We'll know before we embark what the final cost of the tower is going to be. We'll make sure we bring that forward before we proceed.
Yeah.
We have an estimate. I think we have a good estimate at this point from our construction partner. But I think we can regularly update council on what the costs of the project are and if there are any overages.
I would ask for
Yeah.
that. We expected that with the fundraising and that stopped some 7 or 8 months ago. I haven't heard a report on that. I just think there's a lot of unknown. And like I said, council has not been briefed on this tower. So with all due respect, I guess the message has been conveyed and I trust you'll adhere to that.
Okay. Well, I think that I'm concerned that some people are not familiar, say that they don't have very much information about the tower. And I'm almost sure that Reverend Mills and other members of the 2009 Design Committee have stacks and books on that particular tower, and they updated. I know the community has been updated many times on several different things. But this particular, I don't think that this is something that I would expect the city manager, many city managers that I've been through would ever spend that kind of money. We have had more money spent on other things in the city of Greenville. No one came up, no one talked about they hadn't heard anything, said not one word when we added an appropriation to it, and we did because it was the right thing to do, because we had made a promise to that community. So I don't understand why all of a sudden, there's too much when you're talking about an investment. And as I heard the hotelier say that if we invest more in recreation, then it improves the job performance and the ability of jobs to be in community. I do know that in terms of poverty, it will give some people a better place to live because we have committed so much land to those people for affordable housing. If we're able to get more money from some other things that we put in this park, it means there'll be more investment in houses, in trailways, in community investments in terms of commercial development. We'll be able to invest more in the particular community. So I think I trust the city manager. And then if not, it's enough of us. If we don't trust him, then we know what to do when you don't trust somebody. But however, and he understands that as well. However, so I think the tower really is not an issue, folks. Most of you coming here now about the tower. You've been coming about 9 years too late because we've been talking about the height, We've been talking about this tower for a long time, since 2009. It said we've been talking about the tower, so it's been talked about. So if you missed that meeting, I'm so sorry. But it's been talked about a long time.
I
The
call
community
the
is looking
motion for
so-
the amendment to a vote.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
no, not till I finish saying what I have to say.
Y'all notice that council doesn't have a 3-minute clock, but
Exactly right.
bear with us.
We're
We'll
on
try.
discussion on this amendment.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, on the amendment,
But-
I understand it's a great idea, but, I think this is the wrong time to do that particular amendment, et cetera. And I'm sorry if I was off task, please, forgive me for that, but.
I appreciate the intent of the amendment. I guess my feeling is, I've been mayor for 20-something years, and I've never seen a city manager appropriate money without coming back to council for anything like this. So while I appreciate the intent, maybe some other language for the second reading I could look at, but that's my feeling about it. Clerk, call the roll.
Mr.
Councilman-
Mayor. Oh,
Clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember DeWorke,
my gosh. Well, I had a question before we went to roll.
Okay. Oh, well,
I'm just wondering, like, I would like to be behind this. And I saw the original language, and I would certainly like to support this. I'm wondering if Councilor Dow would withdraw the amendment and then have the language ready to go for second reading, and I would be happy to support it at that point. Just wonder if you'd do that, Councilor Dow.
I think we can go ahead and vote on this, and then we can revise and offer another amendment at second reading.
okay, clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember DeWorke,
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming, Councilmember Gibson,
No.
Councilmember Brazington,
No.
Councilmember Stahl,
Yes.
Councilmember Dow,
Yes.
Mayor White.
No. Okay. Further comments by council?
So now we're on the main.
We're on the main.
The main
yeah.
thing, and I have
Take-
multiple questions, but I can wait till other people get theirs done.
Well, can't take up all the time either. Council members will, any comments?
I may have comments, but I'd like everyone else to give a chance to talk first.
I do have some comments. And I guess this is more than anything, an official statement. Last Thursday, for those that were there, was a great day for the city of Greenville. The opening of the park clearly demonstrated city unity and the joy of our citizens for our public spaces. I don't think any of us clearly understood the impact this park would have 20 years ago, Knox, when you and I stood at the side of it wondering if this could become an amazing park. The park has demonstrated clearly a sense of community unity and excitement like I've never seen before. However, discussions about the proposed Unity Park Honor Tower have not been as unified. Quite the opposite. Discussions and opinions about the tower have been divisive and anything but united. It is the responsibility of City Council to listen to the voice of the public. In my discussions with Greenvillians, most seem to be supportive of a memorial in the park to honor first responders, and I share this support. However, the scope and cost of the tower has changed in the last couple of months. The tower this council approved as an 80-foot tower costing $5 million, which would be funded by private donations. Over the last few months, the tower has grown to 120 feet, costing $11 million, of which $5 million would be publicly funded. In a recent poll by 6am City, only 27% of respondents support building the tower at the $11 million price tag. 2/3 of respondents state that alternative designs and alternative funding options should be considered. In the large number of emails I've received, only a handful support spending $11 million on the tower. Almost all suggest that we take a step back and consider less expensive options to honor our first responders. Unity Park is an amazing unifying place. The river is the great unifier and should be the icon and backbone of the park. We must listen to the public as a council. I'm not suggesting we kill the tower. I am, however, suggesting we take time to explore other options and postpone tonight's vote.
My comments will be this. First of all, I don't want us to ever as a city make policy about big decisions based simply on putting our finger in the wind and taking a poll. Boy, do I know the lessons on that because I lived it. When the Liberty Bridge was first announced, it was hard to find but a small group of people who supported the Liberty Bridge. The letters to the editor were harsh. They were extreme. And they said two things over and over again. They said, why in the world do we think we're going to build a bridge, a footbridge with hospitality tax money or any other money? Money could be better spent on something else. And who in the world is going to come here and see this? And by the way, just so people understand, no, this is the headline, put footbridge funds into other projects, they said. Here's another Greenville News writer. Expensive footbridge doesn't make sense. Somehow some people in our community just don't seem to have the priorities right. For the life of me, it is truly beyond comprehension that the city of Greenville wants to spend $4 million. More than this, by the way. This actually was $5 million for Liberty Bridge, for a pedestrian bridge over the Reedy River. Another person says it would probably only take a portion of the $2 million set aside for the bridge, or all of the board, by the way. The bridge costs $5 million. The Liberty Bridge costs $5 million. It'd only take a portion of that 2.2 to further upgrade the river's edge. Let's improve the river with that money. And the money could be used for truly other needs like sidewalks, street crossings, and other great amenities in the city, and on and on and on and on and on. Gene Brooks at the Greenville News finally was so exasperated by people's reaction to the Liberty Bridge, she wrote a nice column. Basically concluded it with, it's easy for a city to build ordinary and sameness, and it's easy for a city not to build at all. To build what is truly distinctive and different, you have to be able to imagine what isn't. You have to have spirit and heart and courage. To build beauty, beauty has to matter. Well, the idea of this tower, and I'm sorry if some people don't know the history, because for over 10 years this had been discussed. We had a 15-person citizen committee made up of residents of the neighborhood and people all over the city. And they worked over the course of about 4 years, in fact, many public meetings. Many public meetings. Do you know they even went up in a bucket truck? Stacy Mills, you went up in a bucket truck, I believe. They get the height right because they wanted to make sure, no, that's not right. And some of that talk about the cost, that's because the committee decided we don't want some squatty nothing tower. It's got to go at least as high to see the beauty of the mountains. And they said that's the right spot. And then the designer had to come back and design accordingly. Oh, by the way, who is the designer? You know Miguel Rosales, who designed the Liberty Bridge? This is one of his colleagues. Paul Endres is a world-class architect. World-class. He builds things of extraordinary beauty. And he listened to the committee in 2013, again in 2016, multiple meetings. And Paul Endres had to come back before council in a workshop and had to go back in front of all the citizens, keep working on what's the right height, what's the right dimensions, how are we going to get this just right? And it was reported extensively in the Greenville Journal, extensively in the Greenville News. Pictures, version 1, version 2, version 3. That's where some of the confusion, I think, comes from. They're talking about early versions that were just a few $1 million. But the committee knew what they wanted. We wanted something that would make a difference for Greenville, like the Liberty Bridge, because this part needs one. Now, the whole idea of the tower goes back even further than that. The very first concept of this park was in 1999. The Sasaki plan had a tower. Then Tom Keith, the late designer of the Falls Park, was the first one to really sketch out, to really render this park that became Unity Park. And guess what he put in the middle of it all? A tower, 7-story tower. He said, you know, Furman has a bell tower. Says that place is important. They don't need one, though, by the way. They have a Washington Monument. We don't need that either. He said you need it for a couple reasons. And this is quoting Tom Keith. First, need something on both sides of the river, right? And boy, he was so prescient about this because you see, everything's on one side of the river right now. So the whole park is designed to be engaged in the whole. So you have to have something on the other side to kind of mark it as this is the place of activity not just one side. MKSK would take up this charge. That's our official designer of the park, and they did the same thing. They put the tower right there. Our bridge, it's exactly where it's supposed to be to fit with the tower. They go together. They go together. There's also going to be a history walk along the way too. So everything about this, this tower, I'm sorry, we're talking about the tower. It's about the Unity Park plan. It all fits together. All fits together. You can't take out the wetlands. You can't take out the playgrounds. You can't take out the tower. Nothing without it. That's not the plan. And that's not the plan the neighborhood, the 15-person advisory committee, the city council before, that's not the plan that they agreed to. We went out to do donations for the park. We've raised nearly, Tom Fox, where are you? How much money in donations total now? $12 million. We already have $2 million for the tower. Tell you a little something about that. The very first, when we first went out to show people the park, Michelin, BMW, everybody, believe me, everybody was excited about the whole package, and they asked a lot of questions. We were concerned in the beginning because everyone wanted to give money to the tower. The first contribution to Unity Park was from the family of Phil Carlton, $500,000 for the tower. $500,000 for the tower. If you don't know who Phil Carlton is, he was a benefactor of the police and law enforcement. That was his passion. That's why he did it. Meantime, other people have come forward. Now we have about $2 million for the tower. You just need to raise 3 more. Get it? It's $11 million in total, but the larger portion of that, as you know, comes from tourism dollars, as I mentioned earlier. Tourism dollars, the same way we paid for the Liberty Bridge, same way we paid for Falls Park and the baseball stadium, same way we paid for Unity Park. $4.5 million. $4.5 million, less than the Liberty Bridge. Again, that's money you cannot spend for other things. You can't spend. I got lots of letters. I heard that in GVL, that poll, about half the people who responded said, no, spend the money on fill in the blank. And those are not things you can spend that money on. You can't do it. You have to spend it on tourism things. And I think this is a very worthy tourism thing to spend money on. And finally, as far as the money we spend, what the impact we get, I think everyone should know this by now. When we spend a little bit of tourism money, we get a big wallop of impact. And that means property taxes are the sources. You know this, though. We spend $2 or $3 million of tourism, and we get $5 and $6 million back in property taxes. It happens all the time. Unity Park, in fact, according to Matt Eford, our finance guy, Unity Park just opened, right? Unity Park's where we spent tourism dollars, it's already generated, get this, $600,000 more a year in property taxes than it did just 5 years ago. $600,000 more to this day than it did 5 years ago. That's a pretty good return on investment. But hey, this is Greenville. We've done this over and over and over again. That's why we have so much hospitality money. That's why we have so much general revenue money to spend on sidewalks and neighborhood improvements and police and everybody else. That's why we have it. And finally, I talked about why the architects and landscape architects felt so strongly about the bridge, and they do. MKSK will tell you it's an essential part of the design. Just every part fits together. But then again, so did Tom Keith. From the design standpoint, it balances the park. Something else, please note this. Where it's located, it boosts the property value of Mayberry Street across the street. Mayberry Street, which used to be worth about $1 million. You ready for this? It's worth $17 million. $17 million in the course of 3 years. 1 million to 17. And the tower is right in front of Mayberry. Why? It was put there on purpose, because the property across from the tower is worth even more. And where's that money going to go? It's going to be reinvested in West Greenville. Reinvested in the neighborhood. Finally, another reason you have a tower isn't about design, isn't about boosting taxes, which it will do and does do. it makes a statement. Boy, does it make a statement. And that's why Tom Keith wanted to do it. That's why MKSK, and that's why the passion of Mary Duckett. In case you missed it, the passion of Stacy Mills, the passion of the neighborhood people who worked so many years on this project in detail, went up in the bucket truck over and over again, over and over again. Why? Because the tower makes a statement. It tells the world that Southern Side is here. We're here. You may think it's just a viewing platform to see the mountains, and it is. That's very nice. But I learned early on in this project, there's something else going on here. There's something else going on. It puts the stake down. That's why Furman has a bell tower. That's why the Washington Monument is there. Makes a statement. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It also means, as we sit here tonight, after years of public meetings and discussions that maybe you weren't a part of, and I'm sorry if you didn't know, so many people were. At this point, too, it's either you keep the promise or you don't. And I choose to keep the promise. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's going to be tough to follow, folks. No, I thought it was important. I want to share my views on this with my fellow council members, but also each of you and the public who have taken time out of your Monday night to be here. So thank you. Whether we have the same opinion or a difference of opinion, what matters most is that people care. And so thanks for being here and the thoughts that you've shared. I've been on council a number of years now. When I came on council, I was a proponent of this tower. I remain a proponent of this tower. Even before I came on council, as I learned about the promise and the future of Unity Park, I can't recall a time where not just a component of the envisioned park was a tower, even before it was known as the Honor Tower. I can't recall a time when that wasn't part of the conversation, and I still believe it is a capstone central component of the future of this park. So whether it be to fulfill a pledge or promise or to recognize 2009, that would be 13 years now, whether it's that, whether it's to make up for a longstanding decades-long pledge, or whether it's just as simple as to continue what I view, just one member of council, to be a consistent part of the Unity Park conversation of years past. I am for 4.5 million, which is the number in front of us for an $11 million tower. The mayor said it a moment ago. If he hadn't said it, I would have said this. This speaks a little bit, I think, to what Bo Altry in the audience was saying. I do believe, like many other strategic, important decisions in Greenville's recent history and long-term history, that this will be a force multiplier. An investment now in this tower will pay residual and perpetual dividends. And oh, by the way, if and as it does, a lot of that incremental buildup over time of our hospitality and tourism funds will better position us at every point in the future to do the very thing some who have reached out to me in recent days are saying that we want to do. Invest not just in one park, but all parks. Invest in trails, invest in trolleys. We will be stronger and better, in my belief, by this investment in the tower. The mayor's talked about what I often call the flavor or style of money. It is true that this money cannot regrettably be used for poverty, for affordable housing, for a variety of other things, but it sure can be viewed to help this tower live up to its full potential. Folks, my view is this: it's not a either or consideration. It's an and, it's also and, meaning this. I believe we can, thanks to the careful planning work of our chief budget officer and the efforts we've put forth in recent weeks to look at the financials at our disposal, we can make this investment in the tower, give it a chance to come to life and do the things that we've said we believe it can and ought to be. But we're also doing magnificent things through the fiscal year 23 budget itself, which is a separate consideration of this tower funding contemplation. We're putting literally millions of dollars into Cleveland Park, into some of our other parks. We're making investments in our trails and trail connections. And I recognize some would say, yes, but maybe it's not enough, or in lieu of the tower, you could do more. That takes me back to it's not, an either or, it's an and also, because I think we can do all of these meaningful things to a community. In fact, we're poised to do this right now. The last thing I want to say, because it needs to be said, I have a tremendous amount of confidence and respect in the competencies and capabilities of the fundraising team that has been put in place and has been working hard for years On Unity Park, $12 million already raised, 2.5 committed this tower. I have great confidence that the balance between the 4.5 we're considering and whatever cost tag it ends up being, 11 million is what we're saying, can be raised. In fact, it's my view that if we hadn't gotten to this point to bring up this decision, that fundraising team with the confidence they needed to know that the city of Greenville was behind this tower probably would have already raised double that private philanthropy increment. That is my view. And just as the mayor's alluded to earlier, I can think of bucket truck rides in June of 2019. I can think of council workshop briefings in March of 2021. There have been countless conversations about the place and the fit and the opportunity and the fulfillment of this tower. I think if I have any regret, it may be that we didn't come to action quicker because, like all things in our lives now, the tower's cost, like all other things, has escalated. And so given my druthers, I'd much rather be pursuing an $8 million tower, a $7 million tower, whether it's publicly or privately funded. Alas, our best estimate today is that, and I'm here to say that I'm willing to commit the $4.5 million in public funds to bring this thing to life. So thank you for the time.
I just have a series of questions and then I'll have some comments. I didn't plan these in order, but since you mentioned the bucket, because I do think that must have been fun. That was before I came on council. Clint, I have to ask you because Dave Derrick isn't present and I think he was the one in charge. When they did the bucket truck lift, I rode in our bucket truck. I think it was 75 feet. 75 feet was the lift. So council at the time saw it, this, view, this experiential was 75 feet. And we're building a 125-foot tower.
No, everybody's, the committee and the people who did it, they didn't think it was enough.
I'm still talking.
So they
So if I could
estimated, I
just-
just don't want you to
yeah.
think, we have the bucket only went 80 feet or so, but
If I could just
everybody
finish
said it
with
should
my-
be,
if I could
everybody
just-
felt it should be a little higher.
If I could finish with my questions, with all due respect to the mayor.
Okay, Councilman.
Um,
We're really very good friends.
We are really good friends, and I hate that this tower has been so incredibly divisive for council. If I have a regret, I very much regret that. You mentioned the bell tower at Furman. It is a lovely tower. For the record, the bell tower does not allow anyone to access that tower for fear of safety. So the bell tower is not open to the public. It is there at Furman, and it is there to look at from the ground. As far as our zoning goes, this tower will be in the Unity Park core. When we approved the zoning for Unity Park, UPC had some height restrictions. At the time, the height restriction was 30 feet. I made an amendment at the time to increase it to 40 feet because the owners of the property along the river needed more footage to do what they wanted to do with what is now the commons area. So an amendment was given to 40 feet reluctantly. And I remember Councilmember Fleming was concerned about the neighbors looking at 40 feet. So now we're looking at 125 feet. I'm just saying this issue of height is very inconsistent throughout the years on discussion that I've been on council. We eventually affirmed it for 40 feet in the Unity Park core. I'm not saying that this will fall outside of the zoning. I'm sure it has all special accommodations as an element, but there was a time when we cared about height and that was it. I have some questions again, because we haven't been briefed and we do see a lot of numbers. I hear 4.5 million public funds, 5.5 million public funds. I guess that's because we're counting on $1 million left over from the Unity Park budget, but we don't really know because we're not done with all those things. But my understanding is this is approving 5.5 million in public funds with a match of 5.5 in private funds. My understanding is they are at 2.3 million in private funds and they have till November to raise the balance when their contract ends. So Matt, not to put you on the spot because these could be city manager questions. My apologies. I'm not sure who knows what on this. We did support, most but not all of council members supported an expenditure about a year ago to get schematic drawings of the tower. There was great unknown about what the tower could cost. And at the time, I want to say we committed somewhere, we were estimating around $760,000 to get schematic drawings to get a firm bid. Am I pretty close on those numbers, Matt? For schematic drawings?
I don't recall it being that high, but I don't know the number off the top.
I think that's what we agreed to spend. Whether or not it actually cost that, I don't know. But for that, we got schematic drawings, right? Okay, reliably priced. Okay, so what is the estimate that we received for the tower in its entirety as a result of the schematic drawings that were commissioned? 11 million?
No, that's an inflated price. So
It's an inflated price beyond what we believe it will cost.
yes, so the estimate for the tower provided was 8.8 million and another approximately 600,000 for the plaza. The inflated price of 11 million is to include contingency and construction escalations, because it's been quite some time since that price was provided. And the design cost, yes, sir.
Don't want to leave those out. Okay, so what percent complete are the schematic drawings that this estimate is based on? Are they 90% complete, 95% complete, 30% complete? What percent complete are they? They're 30% complete. I don't know of an engineering firm in this world that would sell their soul for a number based on 30% complete drawings, but I've been out of the business for a while, so I'll yield on that one. What is the schedule for what we're doing this tower from start to finish? Is it a 6-month project, an 8-month project, a 2-year project? Do we know?
Person to answer that. Jeff Waters has the answer to that question.
Okay, is Jeff here? Schedule to complete, 6 months, 8 months, 10 months? Don't know. So we don't know the schedule to complete this $11 million project? We don't. Okay. What is the material of the tower? Do we know what it's going to be made of? Wood, aluminum,
There are
Cortan?
alternatives that will be finalized during the next phase. So there are at least 2 options at this point.
What are those 2 options?
Wood and metal.
Wood or metal, but we don't know which.
There
So,
are
okay.
multiple options.
What provisions have we made in planning year budgets for additional operation and maintenance of the tower? Have we got something in the budget for that?
Not for next year.
I know it won't be in place next year, but do we have it? Did our schematic drawings give us any feel for what the operation and maintenance of the tower will cost us? No. Okay. All right. That's okay. We can move along. Matt, since I have you up here, because I just want to understand this. So in the current budget, right, for Unity Park, what was already been approved, approaching 70 million. The items that are funded in the so-called phase 1 that are left to complete are baseball field, basketball court or courts?
Courts, as part of
Courts.
the baseball field project.
Maintenance facility enabling Parks and Rec to take care of this park, which we all agree is essential. And we all agree we have fallen down on that with other parks in recent years. Eastern wetlands, but those are 100% privately funded, so we don't, okay. Additional parking. I know we have some additional parking that council has approved to do. Okay. So the last time we spoke at that time, based on what we thought things were going to be, my impression was that we expected leftover money to be on this $70 million project, $280,000. But now you feel like it's $1 million left over.
So we're still in final punch list of the construction phase for the main part of the park. We do have those elements that you've discussed that are still to be funded from the remaining contingency. There's currently available balance of around $5 million to address those components. And I believe we've over budgeted on several of them. So if council's desire is to authorize $1 million, that's what will generate in savings.
Okay, then do we have any provisions for any kind of endowment for this park, such as what was set up for Falls Park?
If there are any remaining funds beyond the $1 million savings that you all are allocating, then that will be an opportunity for council to consider an endowment.
But if we if we allocate this tonight, then conceivably anything left over in the Unity Park budget right now is allocated to the tower, to the 11 million.
At this point, yes.
Okay. What was the breakout pricing for the plaza that was proposed? When we agreed reluctantly, some of us were very reluctant to agree to the schematic drawings. I did ask for breakout pricing for the plaza because I feared we could get to this point. And I do absolutely believe we need to do something in that area. And I absolutely can support, calling it an honor, whatever it is. As for me, I believe we honor people by paying them what they're worth, what they deserve, and by giving them a good place to work. And it is not lost on me that we have approved pay increases for our first responders wholeheartedly this year, and we're about to spend well-spent money on a new facility for our GPD and our GFD to work, as well as our fire station. So I applaud the city management for honoring our first responders that way. But the breakout pricing for a plaza to do that portion of it, an alternative was what?
500 to 600,000 plus probably 20% design contingency.
So it is conceivable we could do something even with the private money that's already been raised thus far, which is 2.3 million.
I would hesitate to say yes because those people committed to a different.
Absolutely. With their blessing, absolutely. I agree. Completely concerned. A last question for you, Matt. So we have fund balances. We have balances that are maintained in funds, and those are beautifully displayed in our PAFR report. So we have hospitality tax fund balance, accommodations tax fund balance, other tourism would be Sunday alcohol sales fund balance. And over the years, that has ebbed and flowed, hitting a low point in 2019. I expect that's when funding started to flow towards this. But if we commit to this money tonight, it is just on the numbers you shared, I believe those fund balances will be below the 10-year, the lowest of the low of the last 10 years by quite a bit.
That is correct. They will be lower than they have been.
Than they have been for the past 10 years.
Yes.
Okay.
But as
All right.
I've shared with council several times during the budget workshops, this is a year when I expect us to draw down on resources that we've accumulated and that our projections for next year and beyond see those fund balances replenishing.
Okay, and we do have some other projects in the pipeline that are chomping at the bit for this tourism money, and all we have set aside is what is all we have set aside. Okay, that's all I had. Thanks, Matt. James Keel, is he here? Thank you for staying. I had some questions for you on how tourism money relates to our Green Link system. Tourism money funds the trolley, correct?
That is correct, yes,
It is
ma'am.
correct. We've done a lot of work in the last year on the trolley system and the routes.
Yes, ma'am, new routes will go into effect first Friday of June to serve Unity Park.
Okay, so we're serving Unity Park. Did we cut any routes in order to provide that service? It's my understanding we cut Overbrook and Green Line Spartanburg from the routes.
So there were two seasonal routes that were operating, which were 903, which served the west end, the village, and 904, the attractions route that served the Greenville Zoo, made its way up Stone Avenue and stopped at North Point and then came down Main Street.
Okay.
As a result, the GTA went through a service equity analysis, public meetings, and ultimately made a decision to do away with the attractions route and then make modifications to 903 to add on the Children's Museum and Unity Park.
Okay, but Green Line Spartanburg will no longer have service on the trolley nor Overbrook. Is that correct? That's what the map showed.
There were not trolley stops in those areas for those communities to access the trolley.
Okay, well, they're certainly not going to get it now. Do we have any upcoming capital needs for our trolley service to keep that running?
So
I guess in the next year or two.
There's an eligibility to begin trolley replacement as early as next year. And
Okay.
what that means is that the vehicle will be at the end of its federal useful life and will be eligible for reinvestment.
Okay, and we would cover those with tourism funds. Okay, thanks. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
I hate this has been such a divisive issue. I really do. I'd like to submit these comments for the record, and then that's all I've got to say on this. So I'll provide these to you, LaToria, and I appreciate that. Let me start by extending my gratitude to our city staff, who has worked so hard to bring Unity Park to fruition. You do not receive nearly enough thanks for all that you do, and it is not lost on me or the rest of this council the extraordinary effort that our dedicated staff invested, particularly over the past 2 years, to bring us to the point where we could open this beautiful park to the public. So I thank our staff. I also want to thank the private donors who have pledged their contributions to the park elements. Their generosity is remarkable, and it underscores that our community is better and stronger as a result of public-private partnerships such as those that were made to bring Unity Park to fruition. When I came onto council, it was my feeling that the project as it is built today, and including the elements that just mentioned with Matt, was well in the works. So I was comfortable supporting it, and with a $70 million investment, we now have a beautiful park opened. I do not feel at this point that council is obligated to approve further public spending on Unity Park beyond the maintenance, upkeep, and security that will be required, and it will be substantial. To my knowledge, we as a council have been cognizant of the fact that it is not within our purview to obligate future councils to our spending priorities, and I do not accept that the argument that this tower must be built because it was part of a long-term plan. If we are to fall on that sword as an argument, it should be qualified by saying that the long-term plan also warranted that the tower be fully privately funded, which is not what is now being proposed. When we solicited the schematic drawings, I asked that breakout pricing be provided for the Plaza component of the proposed tower, so we would have that available in the event that the tower pricing came in high. No doubt we are at that point. It is my strong belief that $11 million is simply far too high. And I remain concerned based on market and supply chain conditions that we are very vulnerable to that number growing. Funding this tower as proposed will result in our tourism fund balances being drained to a 10-year low. Although we have benefited from better than budget revenues in the past couple of months for H-Tax and A-Tax, our ability to support tourism is still tenuous, in my opinion. We are in the most challenging time I can ever remember in workforce recruitment, and our restaurateurs and our hoteliers, who are the biggest contributors to the H-Tax and A-Tax revenue stream, are struggling to find the workers to support tourism efforts. Lastly, I also believe that the proposed tower is not in keeping with the design aesthetic of the park, and I apologize if I don't agree with some people on that. We all have a right to our artistic opinions, and that's where I am on that. I apologize. I'm respectful of everybody else's artistic opinion on it. Certainly, we affirmed that when we limited the building heights within this park to be no more than 40 feet tall. With all due respect to those that presume previous councils endorsed a 125-foot, $11 million tower, I disagree. And I cannot support this project as proposed. I could certainly support a park element that is privately funded with a design that is integral to the surrounding natural beauty of Unity Park.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor? Oh, sorry.
Mr. Dworkin? Yeah.
Yeah, do you mind if I hop in there?
Please, please.
All right, well, good. Well, I will be brief in my comments, but I did want to make a few. I will say, I think that our city, particularly in the last 3 or 4 decades, has set itself apart with big ideas. And I look at the Honor Tower, I look at Unity Park as such a big idea. And you can look at cities around the nation. We literally have set ourselves apart with big ideas. When I ran for office, I wanted to run to protect neighborhoods. I wanted to run because I felt that we were definitely going to grow, but we needed to grow and maintain a high quality of life. I ran to support businesses. As you all know, that's a passion of mine as well. But I also ran because I didn't want to shy away from big ideas. Big ideas have set Greenville apart for decades from other cities, even in our own state. And I won't pick on those poor little cities, but they really lack vision, even to today. And without picking on them, you know who they are. Just go to them and you can see the lack of vision. I think the Honor Tower is in line with a long list of big ideas that Greenville's had and really is what made Greenville what it is today. Do believe this is going to be an outstanding investment from a financial perspective, but I do think as an iconic structure, it will be revered for years. And let me just go through some of these big ideas. Each one of these, and I did the research, each one of these had letters to the editor, each one of these had the naysayers, and they actually turned out to be okay. So let me go through some of those projects. 1979, City of Greenville said, you know what, we want to reduce our Main Street from 4 lanes to 2. And those businesses were screaming, you're going to put us out of business. But today, we've got trees, wide sidewalks. We've got a nationally award-winning Main Street, and that was some of the start of that. 1981, we put $10 million toward the Commons, or everybody knows, toward the Hyatt, put millions toward the Peace Center. I'm sure there are folks out there who said we could have spent that money somewhere else. I remember this very clearly, that when the city decided to take down the Camperdown Bridge, oh my gosh, I cannot believe you're going to take down a perfectly good bridge. That's what I heard. You're going to take down a perfectly good bridge. But no, the city had a vision. The city had a vision for a pedestrian bridge. So the criticism didn't end there. Then Mayor talked about the criticism received, putting up the $4.5 or $5 million pedestrian bridge. Clearly they were wrong. And the list could go on and on. River Place, even mundane stuff like parking garages, they have the vision. Say, there may not be businesses here today, but they'll be here tomorrow. We got to spend money on a parking garage, floor field. The list goes on and on. I just feel like, have we not earned the credibility that these big iconic ideas that have been put forth the last 30 years work? And I would contend, I think so. I really do. I think it's going to be iconic. I do think that it's going to generate, if you just look at the financials, it's going to generate the revenue for economic impact for our small businesses, for our community, and of course in tax revenue. But not only just one time, but for generations to come. I mean, this $4.5 million that we're talking about, we are going to see that return on investment over and over and over again for generations to come. But I will end it with this, that all that being said, and I think that to me is my main argument to support the funding for this Honor Tower. I do not want it to be lost on another very important issue at hand for me, and that is the Southern Side community has long been waiting for this park and long been waiting for the plan, and the plan included a tower. And so not only do I support the Honor Tower because of what I think this big idea will do for Greenville, but I also support it because of the Southern Side, the people of the Southern Side community, and I stand with them as well. So I said I'd be brief. Hopefully that was brief enough. Thank you, Mayor, for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Ms. Fleming.
I want to thank all of you for coming tonight. This council is not divided. As you see, there are 5 of us who strongly support. Only a couple of weeks ago did we know that there was some opposition and the difficulty. And that is the right of everyone to express themselves. Please understand that. We will be working together anyway, and to do that. And of course, when the tower opens, everybody is invited to come. But I want you to understand, the only thing I'm saying to you is that we have worked together, and it is not a divided council. Divided would be like 3 to 4, something of that nature. No, we are not beating each other over. No. It's not that. It's that 5 of us have stuck to our guns and we have not changed it. And there are people have other ideas. There's no problem with that. That's America, and I appreciate that. But I just want to thank all of you for coming, irrespective of what side you're on. I'm glad you're on the side of the city. That's what's happening. And there are other things that you can do. For those of you who say you're worried about affordable housing and poverty, do something about it. Contribute to those things that we're working on in our communities, our neighborhoods, and our Greenville Housing Homeless Alliance has lots of places for people to donate funds and donate your old houses. You can contribute to something. You don't have to just come here and be upset about one thing. You can come and make a difference. So this year, next time, some of those houses will be filled with somebody who needs them. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
And just for clarification, I would like to say the mayor's well aware of where I've stood on public funding for this tower. I've been very clear from the get-go, I was not going to support additional public funding for the tower. And when these schematics were discussed amongst council, not only was I reluctant to commit that money, but I was not alone in that. But me being opposed to public funding for this tower, there should be no surprise from my comments on that. But no, I don't think we're divided. I think we'll move forward, and you're still going to be my dais mate.
That's exactly right.
That's right.
Good. Thank y'all so very, very much. I move for the question.
Okay. Question been called. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilmember DeWorke,
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming,
Aye.
Councilmember Gibson,
Aye.
Councilmember Brazington,
Aye.
Councilmember Stahl,
No.
Councilmember Dow,
No.
Mayor White.
Aye. Thank you very much. I think some history has been made, and thank you to the folks on the southern side. And I want to clarify, Matt, you said even after we do this, we still have $2.8 million in the hospitality fund. Is that correct?
It'll be $1.8 million.
1.8 million. Okay, well, a little bit off in there.
Above our required reserve.
Above the required reserve, right? I'm sorry.
But well below our 10-year low.
And then it jumps up to 3 million. So I'm just saying, if you got some other needs, if you got some other tourism needs, bring them on. We can still got funding. 15C.
An ordinance to appropriate $29,876,899 for fiscal year 2022-2023 capital budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 to fiscal year 2026-2027 capital improvement program.
So move.
Second.
Okay, motion second. Clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember DeWorke,
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming, Councilmember Gibson,
Aye.
Councilmember Brazington,
Aye.
Councilmember Stahl,
Aye.
Councilmember Dow,
Aye.
Mayor White.
Thank you. Aye.
Mr. Mayor, I would have thought the CIP and the big budget would have been worth staying for.
Wouldn't you think so? There's a lot of good stuff in that budget, a lot of good stuff. 15D.
An ordinance to provide the adoption of a city operating budget, its execution and effect for the fiscal period July 1st, 2022 through July the 30th, 2023.
So moved.
Motion second.
Second.
Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember DeWorke,
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming, Councilmember Gibson,
Aye.
Councilmember Brazington, Councilmember Stahl, Councilmember Dow,
Aye.
Mayor White.
Aye. 15E.
An ordinance to reduce the amount appropriated in the general fund and capital project funds for the neighborhood infrastructure bond for fiscal year 2021 to 2022.
So move.
Motion second. It's a technical amendment, but clerk call the roll.
Councilmember DeWorke,
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming, Councilmember Gibson,
Aye.
Councilmember Brazington, Councilmember Stahl,
Aye.
Councilmember Dow,
Aye.
Mayor White.
Aye. 15F.
An ordinance to appropriate $8,954,274 in the miscellaneous grant fund and general fund to recognize funds from the American Rescue Plan Act.
So move.
Motion
Second.
second. Clerk call the roll.
Councilmember DeWorke,
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming, Councilmember Gibson,
Aye.
Councilmember Brazington,
Aye.
Councilmember Stahl,
Aye.
Councilmember Dow,
Aye.
Mayor White.
Aye. 15G. Shannon? Yeah.
An ordinance to modify approximately 2.95 acres of existing Renaissance Place Planned Development District located on North Pleasantburg Drive and Renaissance Road Drive so as to allow 36 single-family attached lots and 0.38 acres for
More
future
houses. More
commercial
houses in the city.
development.
Shannon will touch base on this. This is good news.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good evening. This proposed modification is to convert a portion of the commercial property in this planned development to single-family attached residential for approximately 36 units. This did go before the Planning Commission in April and was passed by a 6-0 vote. I'm happy to answer any additional questions that you may have concerning this proposed amendment.
Move to approve.
Second.
Yep.
But I have some questions.
Yep. Okay, question.
Sorry. So Shannon,
Yes, ma'am.
I have some questions that have nothing to do with the tower. Is that okay?
Yes,
Okay.
let's have some fun with zoning.
Okay.
See the zoning.
So I watched the PC hearing this morning. I just want to
Yes.
make sure I heard correctly and kind of reinforce some things that,
Sure.
that some of the commissioners made that I thought were really relevant. So this is a longstanding project, been going on since 2006. So it doesn't fall under our GVL 2040 push for affordability, unfortunately. And affordability is not included in this proposal, but this has been on the books for a long time. So there we are. Basically, this modification is converting what was planned for retail now to single-family attached townhomes,
Correct.
which we need. We need to have places to absorb those people that we know are coming to Greenville.
Correct. And as you can see, just so that for the public, there is a commercial corner that they want to retain for a small neighborhood commercial use. I think during the Planning Commission meeting, they may have mentioned a coffee shop, restaurant, or something there for that neighborhood.
Okay, but it is a net trade of square footage from
Yes.
retail. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
They are bringing it more to the front, to the public realm with our urban design.
They are.
I do encourage, they have to submit final development plans. So there
Yes,
will be more staff scrutiny.
Yes, ma'am.
PC has to approve FDPs.
Yes, well, on the FDPs, they're normally approved by staff. However, they will have to approve the subdivision plat. So the FDP will be reviewed by staff as well as the subdivision plat will have to go back before the Planning Commission. We'll have a public hearing process and will be reviewed at the Planning Commission level.
Okay, so I do hope for that scrutiny in terms of what we're seeking
Absolutely.
in the walkability of this area, the connectivity of this area, because this is one area where I think we all can agree anything is better than what's there right now.
I'm in.
Question for you, the Renaissance Place development that is senior affordable housing. I think I heard this. I want to make sure it's clear. The residents in that Renaissance Place, they will have access and connectivity to the green space that's part of this PD?
That is my understanding.
Okay,
Yes.
I certainly want to have that for those seniors.
Yes, that
Okay.
is right.
Are y'all with site design?
Yes.
Site design people? Okay, great, thanks. So what I heard in the PC, I just want to emphasize that's very important. I want those seniors who are in that affordable housing of Renaissance Place to have that access. Some may be they are seniors, so we want that connectivity. It is the only green space they have access to, and that's important to me.
And if I remember correctly, and Stephanie can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think about 37% is allocated for open space in this portion of the development. Within this boundary of the development, 37% allocated to open space.
Okay, great. I appreciate you slowing down on that one for me.
Welcome, no problem. Anything else I can answer? Staff did recommend approval. We think it's an improvement to the overall plan development, and Planning Commission agreed.
It's a big improvement, and the affordable housing component was an exciting breakthrough as well. We appreciate that.
Well, there is no affordable housing component.
Not on the, but in the senior housing.
But the one behind it, yes,
That's
but
the
not,
one we-
not what's on the docket right now.
No, but
Okay.
that's the one we approved previously. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmember DeWorke,
Aye.
Councilmember Fleming.
Aye.
Councilmember Gibson.
Aye.
Councilmember Brazington. Councilmember Stahl. Councilmember Dow.
Aye.
Mayor White.
Aye.
Thank you.
New business resolution 16A.
Resolution creating the honorary position of the City of Greenville Youth Poet Laureate.
Have a motion, please.
So moved.
Motion second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Ayes have it. 16B.
Resolution creating the honorary position of the City of Greenville Poet Laureate.
So moved.
Second. Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you very much. Mr. Manager, you got any comments? Thank you, everyone, for being part of the tornado appearance. You really worn your stripes. Anytime you want to come visit during more clement weather, feel free to. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned. Oh, my goodness.
7:12.
Okay.
Everybody have a good night.
See you, brother.